Good morning, guys. It's Vincent here. So, it's been a while. The last time I think we stopped at authorization, so users could log in and log out, and we could tell the difference between when a user is logged in or logged out based on what they could see on the page. Today we're going to be adding properties to our site. So we want people to actually want to be able to add some properties and help people browse our sites and actually see those properties. Before we continue, I owe everyone an apology. I've been away for quite a while, and thinking about it now, the specifics of why I was away isn't so important. Though I got really tied down with work and other personal issues and stuff like that, but in retrospect now I should have done better in communicating that and just coming to say, hey, I'm going to need some time to sort out stuff, or um I genuinely apologize for not doing that and for just leaving you guys hanging. And I understand that a couple of people were concerned. I don't think you need to be concerned. um I'm just glad we're resuming, and I hope you guys can be cool enough to forgive and just have that same zeal and energy that you started with. It's kind of hard, but I'm hoping it can be rekindled. Another thing I would like to mention is that there are a lot of resources. Even though I make these targeted resources where I try to really break things down simply and all of that, there are a lot of awesome resources on the web. So even as you're taking these courses, you shouldn't be taking just this course, you should be taking those free courses too. So after taking these courses where I break things down, you can then go take a more difficult course. Then it's going to be easier for you to understand what's going on there because you already have this the explanation for me. So you definitely should um watch other C sharp tutorials or read other C sharp blog posts, and um, instead of just using just this one to learn. Awesome. So let's get into it. I'm going to go ahead. So since we want to be able to add properties, we need to know what do we need to collect from our user. So if someone wants to add a property to the site, what are the details that we need to collect? Or if someone is coming to our site to view properties, what are the things they want to see? Let's go to propertypro.ng. So this is our site. And let's come to propertypro.ng and let's see what details you would typically see if you want to buy or rent an apartment. I'm going to come here. I'm going to go to rent, and I'm just going to say I want to live in Oshodi. Let's see Oshodi, and I'm going to go ahead and search. I won't fill out the number of beds and all. And so now I'm browsing these houses. So these are warehouses, office space. So let's start with a regular house. So this is a two-bedroom flat. Let's start with this one. So this is a two-bedroom flat at Oshodi, and let us kind of get a sense of what are the details we need to collect here. I'm going to go ahead and open my sticky notes. Okay, so I already did this, so I have them here, but just so we go through it together, we see that some of the things we need on a page that would show someone that wants to view a house as the image of the house, which is this. We want the price of the house, which is this. We want to tell if this house is for sale or for rent. So let's see. I don't think this has that detail, but then we want someone browsing our sites to be able to tell if this house is for sale or for rent. So these are some of the details we'll have to enter. We want a description of the house. So something like this is a description. What else? We want the number of rooms in the house, so 3 bedrooms. We want the number of baths, 2 bathrooms. We want the number of toilets. We want the address. So up here, you can see the address. We want the phone number as a contact, so we can say phone number here if you decide to buy this house. And then we have amenities. So what amenities does the house have? So this particular house does not list amenities, but let's find a different house that lists amenities so you just see what we're talking about. So this is a mixed bedroom house, and let's see. Interestingly, this one doesn't have amenities too. But the general idea is we just want to be able to tell the person, okay, this one has amenities, so it has 8 bedrooms, it is furnished, so this is an already furnished apartment for 750 million naira. That's interesting. So it has security doors, it has water treatment, it has a POP ceiling, it has a drainage system. So these are examples of amenities you might want to show that the house has. And so those are the details we want to collect for now. As we progress, we're going to add more details. Let's see, for example, for here we have the map view, which kind of just shows how the surrounding area is and all of that. But we're going to start from these for now. Awesome. So we're going to get right into it. If you're wondering where I am, so I've already navigated to the repo. If I say get status, you see my last um so I'm going to switch to dev. I'm currently a master, so I'm going to switch to dev. Check out dev and then get status. Let's see. If you want to, I want to make sure my dev is, so I want to make sure I haven't done any other work on this than I have showed you guys, right? So I can see that my last commit was about 2 months ago, and I think the last commit was added deployment file. So if I click on 19 commits, you see this was my last commit, June 18, where I added a deployment file. So if I go get, so to view my list of commits, I can view my list of commits on the web. To view my list of commits locally, I can simply say git log, and you can see other deployment file. This is my last commit, and you can kind of just see all the list. You can hit enter if you want to continue seeing all the commits from the beginning of time. When you're ready to exit this, you hit Q, and we can then clear. So we're here. Let's go ahead and open up the folder in VS Code as usual. Okay. So this is all good. Alright, I'm going to close this terminal. I won't be using it. I'll be using this mostly. And the first thing we want to do is we want to create a page where someone, so let's go to property.ng. We want to create a browse page basically. So we're not going to have this home page, we're just going to go straight into so this a page like this kind of page. And so we want to add a properties controller. Just to I'm going to go ahead and open a template. So I still have the template here, you should open it down too. So I'm going to say open with code. So this is the template we used before, or this is the template we've been using. I'm going to open it up, and then I'm going to take the index page. So this is the index page. I'm going to say copy paths, and I can just paste this path in my browser to kind of see what it looks like. Okay, so let's go to properties. Awesome. So this is a page we're going to be using to list our properties. And let's see the other versions. Let's see if I can find something cooler. Properties. No. Let's see the property page style 2. This one is cool. I prefer the other one. Let's see the style 3. Now you can decide to use whichever of these you like. But I'm going to use the first one. I think I prefer the first one. Go back. This is properties list. Let's see. I'll probably use this one. I'll use one of these ones. But for now, what do we need to do now? We need to create a properties controller. So I'm going to come here, source. I need to create a controller in my web project. So I'll come to controllers, and then I can right click and say new C# class. Now this wasn't possible before. What we're doing was new file, but some of you already know this. But for the benefit of those that don't, let me go ahead and just say properties controller. And you see it generates the class for me, including the namespace and all of that. So how do you get this functionality? You see I have new C# class, new C# enum, new C# interfaces. Some of you don't have these things, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to get that. And the way to get that is really easy. You just need to install an extension. This is my extensions tab, and these are my currently installed and enabled extensions. And you can see these C# extensions by Just Creative. So if you want to have that feature where you can just say new C# file, install this C#, search for C# extensions here, and make sure you're installing the one by Just Creative. The two of them, one of them is outdated. Make sure the one you're installing is the one from Just Creative. Awesome. So once you do that, you'll be able to right click and say new C# file. I should show you one gotcha though. Sometimes the namespace it's automatically generates for you is not correct. So our namespace should be estateapp.web.controllers, not src.estateapp. So when you generate a file like this, you should take a look at it and make sure everything is in order. I'll just take out the src part, and I'll inherit from controller as usual. Just control and full stop or period to get this done. Awesome. Now a couple of things. First of all, we need a page to show a list of properties. So I'm going to say public action results get, or public action result. Let's say index. Let's stick with convention. So I'll call this index. And then I'm going to do here is return view. So this is a page that someone that's navigating to our application that wants to view properties on our application. This is a page that they should see. And then let's go ahead and add the view for this page first. There's going to be nothing on that view for now, but just so we don't forget, remember to add a view, you come into your views folder and you add a folder for the controller. I'm going to right click here and say new folder. I'll call it properties. So the folder should correspond with the name of the controller without the controller suffix. I'll say properties. And now within the properties, I need to create a view for each of my actions. So I'm going to right click here and say new file. I'm going to call this file index.cshtml. And then I'm just going to put h1 here that says pro new. I'm just going to put a h1 that says property page. And I'm just going to close it up. This is basic HTML. I expect everyone to be comfortable with it now. So I have this. If we want to test this, we can go ahead and test it. So I'm just going to come here. I'll navigate to the web folder. Let's see, let's cd estateapp.web. Then I can see .NET run. I just want to make sure everything is wired up properly before we continue. Alright, so our application is live. I'm going to take the URL, take it in. Oh, sorry. So I'm going to take the URL. I'll just paste it here. And we can see our site here. I'm going to go to slash properties. So if I go to slash properties, it automatically came to the index page. So I can say slash properties slash index, and I'll come to the index page, and I have my property page here. So I know this page is ready to display some information. Awesome. Now but before we can display properties, we obviously need to have some properties in our database, right? So there's currently no property in my database, so there's no point having a properties page. So it makes sense then for us to go and create the functionality to add properties to our system, so we'll have properties to display. Let's do that. So we're going to start from the database end. To do that, I'm going to open my SQL Server Management Studio and take a look at our database, so we see what our database looks like currently. So remember, once again, we're using local DB, so I'll just connect to it. And go into my databases. I have my estate app DB here. I'll expand it. Let's see, tables, and you can see a couple of tables here, right? Oh, it turns out we already created a table for the properties before. I think we just added the model, we haven't added details to it. But let's look at our users table. So we just illustrate something. So this is our users table, and we have a couple of details. We have the users username, and then we have something called the password hash. And I'm just going to, I've probably mentioned this before, and then we have the name you entered when you were creating this account. But I've probably mentioned this before, but with ASP.NET Core, or in the .NET ecosystem generally, we will never save your actual password. And that is because if I saved, if people register on my site and I save their password in my database, then I can go into my database like this and copy whatever they use as a password. And we know that a lot of people use the same password for multiple sites. So if they register on my site and they enter their password and I save that actual password, then I can just go to my database and take their details and try to log into other sites, which is a security risk, right? So what we do instead is we take the password and we run it through a process called hashing, and we save a hash of the password. In this way, we never know what the password is. We cannot know what the password is. You cannot take the hash and get the password from the hash. It's a one-way thing. So the next time they try to log in and they enter their password, we're going to run it through the hash again, and the hashing algorithm again, and get the same hash. And if the new hash, or if the hash starts trying to log in and the hash in the database matches, then we know it's the same password. So we never really interact with the password. That's just worth mentioning. But the reason we came to the database is to see that we have all of these fields in the database for a user account, and in the same way, we need all of these fields in a database for the property. Let's look at when did we create a contact and why? Okay, I don't remember why we created this, but when we get to that, we'll know why. So let's look at the properties table. So currently, okay, so currently we already have all of this in the database, probably because I I actually was playing around with this. What we're going to do is I'm going to drop my own database. So yours is going to look different than this. And just to keep it consistent, I'm going to delete my database. So I'm going to delete the entire database, close existing connections, and just delete it. And then I'm going to run my migration again. I just want to make sure we are all on the same place. So to run our migration, remember our command for running the migration, .NET EF. Now, if I did not have the migration files before, I will have to create a migration. But if I remember correctly, I should already have some migration here. So if I come to my data folder and I look at my migration, I have some migrations here. All I have to do is apply them. So .NET EF database update. This is a command. I need to tell it what database context I'm working with because I have multiple. And I'm going to say context is, let's do the authentication GB context first. Authentication GB context. And then I need to tell it the project to use. Project, because I have two projects in my solution now, one for the data and the other one for web. So I need to tell it what projects to use. If not, I'm going to run into issues. So I go ahead and I say project, and I'll show you why I'm doing what I'm about to do, but just follow me. So I'll say project dot slash estate app dot data slash estate app dot data dot cs proj. Now, the context takes the name of the context I want to migrate currently. And if we come into our database context, you see I have two database contexts. I have an application DB context and an authentication DB context. So right now I'm saying, hey, migrate the authentication DB context. And so what does this project mean? Project means this is where you will find the migration files. And if you look at it, my migration files for this project is in the estate app.data project. And this is where they are. Now, if you're not using two projects like this, so maybe you're working on a really small application and you're not breaking it down into two projects, your migration is going to be in this web folder, and then you don't need this extra project directive that I'm using here. Now, second thing, why did I start it with a dot dots? I'll show you. So currently, if you look at my prompt, I am currently inside of the estate app.web folder. So let me show you. I am currently inside of this folder on the command line. So, and I'm saying, hey, I want to use this project. Now, this dot slash, and when you're using the command line, it means go back one folder. So what I'm telling my command line is, hey, we're currently in the web folder, but to find the data folder, you need to go back one step, which is come to SRC. So I'm saying go back one step, then go into the estate app.data folder, which is what I'm now doing here. And then I'm now saying use the estate app.data.csproj file, which is this file. So this is not magic. All I'm saying here is I'm literally telling it where to find my csproj file for the project containing the migrations. And that's it. If I hit enter now, hopefully it should migrate without issues. Let's see. Okay, so that's was fine. There was no issues. The next thing, I want to migrate my second DB context, which is my application DB context. Application DB context, and once again, I'm going to hit enter. It's going to build the project, and then I'm going to clear. Now I'm going to come back here. I'll click on my server and I'll say refresh. Now when I expand it, look at my databases. I have my estate app DB again. Expand my tables, and let's look at properties. I'm going to close all of this. Let's look at properties again. Now my so now my database looks like yours. Everything I just did, you don't have to redo it because I made some changes to my own project, but I just wanted to revert to where you guys are currently, so we can go together. So I have all of this. Yours should look like this, and now we need to add all these properties um to our database, right? So I forgot to add title here. We need a title. So a title for the property. Awesome. So how do we add these properties to our database? It's really simple. We're using code first. So because we're using code first, we're defining our database from code. I'm going to close this too. And if we come into source estate app.data and entities, we see we have a property class that we created here, and it is this property class that's translated to our property GB. And why did it take this property class and create a database out of it for us when we run our migration? It's because we included it here. So we told Entity Framework that, hey, when you're creating our database, take the property class and create a database out of it. So that's what we're doing here. And it created this title field. So this title field exists here. And so where did these other ones come from? They came from the base entity. We are inheriting from base entity. If I right click and I say go to definition, we have this ID is deleted, created at, modified at, and deleted at, which is all here. Now, inheritance, the way inheritance works in C#, once one property inherits from another one, it takes all of the public members of that property. So you can't see it here, but property has all of those things that are part of this entity because it's inheriting. It's like inheriting from your father. When you inherit something from your father, all of those things that belongs to your father now belongs to you too. So that's how inheritance works. Let's go ahead and add all of these to let's go ahead and add all of these things to our property class. So we already have title, we have image. So I'm going to say for our image, we're going to save the URL to the image, and we're going to explain why. So image URL later get set. So this is going to hold a URL to the a URL to the image of this property. The next thing is the price of the house. We're going to save the price of the house with a double. I mean, I doubt you'll find a house to rent for 500.455k, but let's just leave it as the double. So is this house for sale or for rent? This is going to introduce us to, this is going to have us talk about something called enums. Well, let's leave this for now. We're going to come back to it. And next thing is the description. Let's talk about the description of the house. So public string description. Get set, and I'm just going to make sure we're still recording. So okay, it's still recording. What else? Nope. So number of rooms, number of baths, these are going to be ints because you can't have 4.5 rooms. So except in Lagos, I mean Lagos people build houses anyhow, so you can have a half room in a Lagos house. So public int number of rooms get set public int number of baths get set, and then public int number of toilets get set. Then we need the address. We're going to change how we're saving our address later, but for now we're just saving a simple string address, phone number. So public string contact phone number. So what number should the person, so should the potential tenant contact or potential buyer? And then amenities. For now, we're not going to add the amenities, but we just have it in mind that we want to be able to add amenities later. And this is all good, right? What is the next thing we need to do? We need to create a new migration and apply it to our database. So then our database has all of this in the properties table. I'm going to come in here and close this, and I'll just come back to my command line and create a new migration. To create a new migration, once again, I don't want to have to type all of this, especially the context. So I'm going to come here and just change it to .NET EF migrations add and give it a name, added properties, added columns to property table or property entity. So .NET EF migrations add, I give my migration a name, I tell it the context I'm using the application DB context, and I tell it the projects I'm using. Then I hit enter and it goes ahead and creates a migration for me. Great, so my migration has been created. Let's go ahead and look at the migration. What exactly is this migration? So if you come into migrations now, you see I have a new migration in the application DB, and these are the new migrations I have. Let's take a look at this. And my migration is saying, hey, the next time this migration is applied to a database, go into, let's see. So it's saying, go into my properties table and add an address column that's going to hold a string. Go into my properties table, add a contact phone number column that's going to hold a string. Go into my properties table, add a description column that's going to hold a string. Add a number of bats property that's going to hold an int. So after creating our migration, the next thing we need to do then is to apply it to the database. And to do that, remember our command .NET EF database updates, passing in the correct DB context, and which is this, and I'll just hit enter and let it go off. Great. Let's go back, and I'm just going to click on the database and refresh it. Look at the tables. Let's look at our properties. And we now see that we have all of this. We have the title, we have the address, we have a contact phone number, description, image URL, and all of that. So we're ready to save properties into our database now. Awesome. We can now return to coding. Let's close this up. Let's go and create a view for you know what, let's commit at this point. So I'm going to step out of this folder to the root folder, and I'm just say git status, git add dot git commit added columns to property entity. I'm just going to push it to GitHub, git push origin dev. Remember, I'm on dev. Just git status to make sure I committed everything, and I did. Clear. I can go back into my source, just app.web projects, and great. Cool. Now let's go into our properties controller and add a new action. So public iAction results add. So this controller is going to handle adding of a new property. I'm just going to say return view. But we both know, so we know that when we want to send some information back to the controller, we need both a HTTP GET that's going to get the page and a HTTP POST. For example, in our account controller, we have We have the HTTP GET login action, which just returns the view that the user should enter their details to, and then we have the post action, which receives those details. So let's go and look at what our login model looks like. So I'm going to go to definition, and we see that in our login model, we're taking the email and the password, what the person enters. So in the same way, when the person wants to create a new property, we need to have a model like this to receive those details into the controller. So to do that, I'm going to come to my model. I'm going to say new C# class. I'm going to call it property model. I'm going to take out the src here, and our property model is going to be very similar to the property entity. So I'm going to just go to the entity in the data file. So come to entities, property, and I'll just copy all of this. And bring them here. Now I do want the ID here. Do I? Let's not use ID for now. We're going to add it if we need it. So now that I have a model, I can come here and mark this with the HTTP GET attribute. HTTP GET. For this one, I'm going to mark this with HTTP GET too. Now, if you don't mark your controller with an attribute, it's going to be a GET. If you don't mark your action with an attribute, it's going to be a GET action by default, but I just like to have it there anyways. Now I can have the second one, public iAction results, add, and then for this one, we're not going to return a view. For now, I'm just going to say throw new not implemented exception. So when you're not ready to work on something, for this we need to add the using system directive. So when you're not ready to implement a feature, you can just put this here, and then if you try to use the feature while this is here, your application just throws an exception. I like to do it before I actually get around to fleshing out the implementation. So for this one, I'm receiving a property model. So property model, add the using statement there, and that's it. Now we need to create a view for this ad. The way to do it is to come into let's collapse all of this. Now come into our views folder again. So this is views, this is properties. We already have index, so we just add. So I have add.cshtml. Now how should this look? So now I'm just going to put page 1 add properties page 1. Let's test this and make sure we can actually get to this page. So I'm just going to say .NET run. Let's navigate to our application. So we were at properties.index. We know it works. This time I want to go to properties.add. And this is our add page. Great. So how should this look? How should this page look? Luckily, our template has a page for that. So our template has a submit page. So submit property page. I'm going to copy the path and I'll bring it here. Let's see what it looks like. So this is a submit property page. You can put an image, a property name, a property price, telephone, just the things we need. So and this looks really cool. Accept terms and condition, and then finally submit. All of this is cool. So we're going to use this. And I remember why I had this implementation before. I have actually recorded this video before. So some of the difficulties I mentioned was I had a bunch of videos recorded, and I lost a lot of them, a bunch of videos I was supposed to edit, and I lost a bunch of them. So I've actually done most of these things before, and it can be it can be hard to go back to start recording hours of videos that you've recorded before. So I had some challenges implementing this page. So just to avoid most of those challenges, we're going to take it slow, and I'm going to run you how I finally got it to work. And I'm going to need you to follow me closely here. If not, it's going to be quite challenging for you. So I recommend that you create a new file somewhere on your disk. For example, I'll come to my desktop, and I'm going to say new text document. I'm going to name it TMP, which is temp. You can name it whatever you want, but the important part is to change the file name extension tmp.html. It says if you change the file name extension, it might become unusable. Okay, change it to tmp.html. Now, if you can change files on your system, if you can change, if you can see the file name extension, what you need to do is come into your file manager, come to view, and this file name extensions, just check it. Hidden items, you can check this too. If you don't see this here, click on options, click on view, then I think hide extension for non-file type. So if this is checked, uncheck it, and that is how you can easily change file name extensions. So this is tmp.html. I'm going to go ahead and open it with code, and you just want this here. So let's have this here. It might open up here, it might open up in your project file. It doesn't really matter where it opens up, as long as you have it open. So I'm going to come here and take this, just copy it and paste it in the temp file. And what pasting it does here is it formats it as a HTML document, and we're going to use this our temporal file a number of times. Now I'm going to come here, and I'm going to come to our layout page. So our layout page is responsible for the header and footer. If you've noticed, most of our pages so far, for example, our add page, even though the only thing in the page is add properties page, let's see, even though the only thing in the page is add properties page, we still have this header and footer. Where's it coming from? It's coming from our layout page in the shared folder. So we actually have a layout page here, and this is that's where it's coming from. Great. Now I want to change a couple of things about this page, starting with, so mark everything from render body. So this is render body. This is the part that injects other pieces of the page to the layout page. So I'm going to start from everything from render body and just kind of clear it out, every single thing. I'm just going to clear this, and then everything from the footer down. I'm going to clear everything from the footer down too. There's some disparity between this script and the other one. So if you don't start like this, you can run into some issues. So I'm going to clear this, and now I have just render body in this page. I'm now going to come to this temp file. Remember, I copied this HTML from submit property to the temp file. I'm going to come all the way down to the ending of my navigation block, and I can collapse this, right? So I have my HTML block, I have my head block, I have my body block, and I want everything from the end of the navigation. And it can be a bit, also an easier way to find it is to just say Control F, because I know how the navigation ends. It's slash dot nav close, so I know this is how the nav bar ends. So I can just come here and take every single thing, and I'll bring it into my layout page, and I paste all of that above my render body. Okay, Now I can just tap this twice. I want it to be on the same line. Now I'm going to come back here, and I've copied everything. Now I'm going to leave the entire page body, and the next thing I want to copy is the footer, the page footer. So I'm going to leave the entire body and go ahead to the footer, all the way to the footer, and I know that the footer starts here. So this clearly says footer area, so my footer starts here. I'm going to copy everything from the footer all the way down to HTML. I'll copy it and just paste it in here. Awesome. Now there are certain changes we need to make, especially with our paths. So we want to change it from HTTP to HTTPS. So this is our first change. And so all of these assets, I want it to start with this tilde slash. If it doesn't start with this, our application is not going to be able to find it. And what are these? I mean, you guys are familiar with HTML, so you should know what these are by now. So what I'm going to do, instead of doing all of this one by one by one, I'm simply going to say Control F, and I'm going to type assets, and then I'm going to replace everywhere there's an asset. I'm going to replace it with tilde slash assets. Everywhere there's an asset, I want to replace it with this, and I just hit replace all, and I can close this. And you see this works. For CSS, I don't want to do the same thing with CSS because there's CSS all over the place. So if I just replace CSS, I'm going to be messing up text where I don't want to. So I'm simply going to do the CSS one manually, and then the bootstrap one, I want to do the bootstrap one manually too. So assets, bootstrap, and you just want to go through. Another important one is images. So img, you want to make sure that all the image tags have the correct starting. So this one does too, this one does, that's number 7, this one does, and this one does. Awesome. I'm going to continue to my footer and look at the links on my footer if they look okay. So I have assets, bootstrap, this isn't okay, so I add this here. I think that's it. Let's run our application and see if our layout page still looks okay. I'm going to save this, and let's just stop this. And let's run it again. Now I'm going to come to my add page again, and we see our header and footer still look okay. That's awesome. Now we can come back to this temp file we created, and now we want to copy the body. So we want everything from this place just to the nav area, and you should be careful when you copy. So this is where the nav bar ended, and this is all we need. We need everything between the footer and the header, or the header and the footer, sorry, same thing. So we copied this, and I can now bring it here into our add page. I'm just going to clear this and say Ctrl V. Now you see it's not properly formatted, so they're supposed to start and end on the same line. And to format it, I'm simply going to paste it. Once you paste HTML into a file that ends with a .html, it's going to automatically format it. I'm going to copy everything here, clear everything here, and paste in this, and see it's now formatted properly. And that's one of the reasons we created this file. Now that it's formatted, I can copy it, bring it into my project. Notice the space here. If I select all of this, delete it, and then paste the edited version, it's now properly formatted. Let's save this, stop our application, let's run it again and see. Let's see what it looks like. Great, so we now have an add properties page. Have a step 1, Okay, we can upload file. We have a okay, next. Okay, this works. Next, it's finished. Great. We have this page. So what do we need to do? Currently, this page doesn't work. We need to go into the HTML for this page and tweak it to work for us. But before we do that, I'm simply going to Ctrl C, get status. Let's commit. I'm going to go back one level. You know what? All the changes we made this time were in the views folder, so we actually don't need to do much here. So we're going to say get status, get add dot, get commit m, added HTML for add properties page, and then get push origin dev. Great, so I'm going to stop this video here so it doesn't get too long. In the next video, we're going to actually start, we're going to be able to actually enter details into all of these spaces and be able to submit it back to the application and save it in our database. Awesome.